إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. صدق الله العظيم. أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah, the one and only true God. We praise Him for everything that we have in this life. We seek His help in every step that we take in this life, and we ask Allah for forgiveness for all the mistakes that we've made. As Muslims, we declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides Allah, the one and only true God, God with the capital G. And we declare that Muhammad was the last and final messenger that was sent for our guidance and for the guidance of all humanity until the end of time. Respected brothers, sisters, and guests, this is my first time ever visiting Boston, and it's very nice to be here. And this morning I was visiting the campus of MIT and Harvard, and these are some of the prominent places around the city, Boston, Cambridge. And I was thinking about how many intelligent minds are attracted from different parts of the world to these type of universities, conducting research and going through graduate programs and undergraduate programs. And then it reminded me about something I wanted to speak about today in the khutbah, is that it was assumed by psychologists for a very long time that the number one factor of success in life, in terms of what you're going to be, what you're going to achieve, what you're going to accomplish, how your life is going to be, was intelligence. If you're a smart person, you're going to be successful in life. Things are going to go good for you. But what's interesting is recent research and recent studies in the field of psychology have upturned that theory. And now they say the latest theory, which seems to be a lot more in line with Islamic principles, is that self-control or self-discipline is twice as important as intelligence in determining how your life is going to turn out. So they studied children and then they studied adults. And when they were studying children, they realized that those children who had a higher level of self-control or self-discipline in the classroom and outside the classroom, they could follow their lives and see what happened to them later. Are they going through financial difficulties? I mean, all of these things are tests from Allah, of course. But are they going through financial difficulties? Is there criminal behavior? Is there addiction in their life? Is there suicide? Other factors. And they said a lot of this has to do with self-discipline. And in adults, it's the same thing. We all go through challenges. Everyone goes through challenges. But what they were trying to highlight was that someone who has self-control is more likely to have a better relationship in their marriage than simply someone who has a high level of intelligence. Of course, you could say intelligence leads to self-discipline and control, but that's another argument. And people, when it comes to their career, self-discipline will actually lead people to higher, ranks in their career, in their education, in their health. And from an Islamic perspective, the same thing applies. Success in Islam, meaning getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not just about intelligence. You can sit there and you can analyze and you can think about Allah and you can think about the Quran and you can know so many details about what scholars have said, and you can analyze and critique. But at the end of the day, if you're not practicing, at the end of the day, if you're not able to restrain yourself, then you find that you're not getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala simply by thinking about it, simply by reflecting upon it, which is a motivating factor, but it's not sufficient. Necessary, but not sufficient. So that's why I wanted to highlight in this sermon today 3 aspects from the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, about the importance of self-control in three different areas of our life. The first area of our life is when it comes to our physical appetites, when it comes to the actual food and drink that we eat on a daily basis. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, مَا مَلَأَ آدَمِيٌّ وِعَاءً شَرًّا مِّن بَطْنٍ. So that no human being can fill anything worse than their own stomach. I mean, the worst thing that you could fill up, the worst vessel you could fill would be your own stomach. He's saying don't fill your stomach to the brim. Don't eat so much that you're completely full. And then he continued and he said, بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمْ أُكُلَاتٌ يُقِمْنَ صُلْبًا. It's sufficient for the son of Adam, for the child of Adam, meaning for a human being, to eat meals that keep their back up straight. It's enough if you eat something and you're healthy enough to keep your back up straight. What does that mean? That means two things. I mean, one, when you're really hungry and you have no food, you kind of crouch over and you're like, I'm really hungry. So it's enough that you're not feeling so hungry that you can actually stand up straight. And the second thing, standing up straight means that you can function. Means that you have enough nutrition that you can actually function. You can run, you can move, you're not getting tired, you're not getting sluggish. So you're eating meals that give you the amount of nutrition that will let you function properly in life. So the Prophet, peace upon him, is saying that's sufficient for you. That's enough, that's more than you need. And then the Prophet ﷺ, knowing human psychology, he didn't just leave it at that. He knew that human beings, they enjoy eating. And a lot of people, they really like their food. Food is a very important thing for them. That's part of the best pleasure that they get in life. Alhamdulillah, we're such a diverse Muslim community. I saw on your website there was over 70 different cultures attending this mosque. So many different types of food and amazing food. So when you go to a Muslim gathering, there's a lot of temptation and all that to eat. So the Prophet ﷺ realized that. So then he said something further. This part of the hadith most people have heard of, but they've not really focused on the first half of the hadith. So the second half of the hadith, he says, فَإِن كَانَ لَا مَحَالَةً. If you can't do what I just told you to do, فَثُلُثٌ لِطَعَامِهِ وَثُلُثٌ لِشَرَابِهِ وَثُلُثٌ لِنَفَسِهِ. Then 1/3 for food, and 1/3 for drink, and leave 1/3 for some space to breathe in your stomach. Right? But the first part of the hadith was basically don't fill your stomach. And you only need to eat enough to be healthy and to be able to function properly. That's a very important part of the hadith. And he says, even if you can't do what I just told you, and you have to eat more, and you can't do what I actually wanted you to do in the first place, then make sure you don't exceed this maximum. Right? This is important. And this is often misquoted hadith because people say the sunnah is to do the last half. No, the sunnah is to do the first half, and if you can't do it, then you do the last half. Now this is really important because what we find in society, especially here in America, is that the average American male weighs 195 pounds. The average American female weighs 165 pounds. And according to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they are saying that most of the illnesses or most of the reasons for this excessive consumption is actually due to our eating habits and our lifestyle habits. So they say that over 1/3 of Americans are obese. Over 17% of American children are obese. Not just overweight, but obese. And they're saying that this costs the Americans $200 billion a year in healthcare. $200 billion a year just for either our lifestyle, sitting at a desk all day, and I know I do the same thing, unfortunately that's my job, sitting at a desk, typing away, being on the internet, and also the amount and the type of food that we eat. Right? And of course, if someone has a genetic issue or something like that, that's different. But think about that. If you calculate that across the average American, imagine when it comes time to get your, people get happy when they get their tax refund, right? After tax season, they pay their taxes, they get a check back from the government, they get happy, I got so much money, tax refund. It's actually money that you overpaid the government, so they're just giving it back to you, nothing to get really happy about. But people get happy that I can go and spend this money. So imagine if every single person, imagine you receive a check every single year for $2,750. And in the memo, it basically says, thank you for following the sunnah, the way of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in terms of eating. That's how much money we just saved because you followed that advice. That's what we're talking about here. That's what's really happening. And unfortunately, in a place like America, many people, they're dying from eating, from excessive eating, overeating, the type of eating that they have. And people in different parts of the world, and of course some in America as well, but in different parts of the world, they're dying because they don't have food to eat. Such an irony. People are dying from eating too much, and other people are dying from not having enough food. So all of this comes back down to self-control in our personal lives. And I know this is a tough time to say this, because right after the sermon, people are going to go and socialize and have lunch, and I'm going to as well. And it's tempting, it's challenging, and it's not easy when you get invited to one of those wedding ceremonies or walimas, and then all of a sudden they bring the nicest food, and you realize it's free, except you're giving a gift in exchange for it. It's free, and you're just like, I'm going to eat all of this food, I'm going to eat as much as I possibly can. Well, we need to control ourselves. We need to realize that, enjoy food. It's a blessing from Allah, but we have to make sure that we have a level of self-discipline and self-control when it comes to eating. This is not to judge any other person. This is to look at ourselves on an individual level. That's one aspect of self-control. And another aspect of self-control, and keep in mind all of them connect to each other. Another aspect of self-control is about the ability to control yourself when you get angry. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ. He said that the strong person is not the expert fighter. It's not the wrestler. It's not the, mixed martial artist. It's not the guy who can win UFC, the UFC Ultimate Fighting Championship. Although we do hope, inshallah, the Muslim brother is going to win the upcoming one. We don't measure strength that way. The Prophet ﷺ, human beings, that's how they measure strength. Who's tough? Someone who could lift a lot of weight in the gym. Or someone who's got big muscles. Or someone who can pin somebody else down to the ground. That's the measure of strength. But the Prophet ﷺ is saying, no, I want you to redefine the concept of strength, real strength, more than just muscle, more than just leverage and the ability to pin somebody else down or arm lock them or choke them out. I want you to look at strength from a different angle. So he's going to redefine terms for us so that we're paying attention and we're focusing. لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ. That's not the definition of strength. He said, إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. The true definition of strength is the one who can control himself or herself when they're aroused to anger. When somebody gets upset, if you're able to control yourself, that is the true definition of strength. Just think about that. Think about how dangerous anger can be. How many people do you know who have broken relationships because someone could not control their anger? How many people do you know how many people do I know have come to me and I tell them, hey, can you ask your uncle, to come visit? We'd love to see him. Oh, I don't talk to my uncle anymore. I said, what? Yeah, it's been 7 years, we don't talk to each other. You don't talk to your own uncle? No, he said this, and then I said this, and we said that, and families are broken apart because of anger. Because someone couldn't control themselves. Brothers and sisters don't speak to each other. Sometimes living in the same city. Sometimes living in the same home. Because someone could not control their anger. And this is, friendships break, families break. This is something very serious. Now the natural thing is that human beings get angry, right? If you don't get angry, then, something might be wrong with you. In fact, Imam al-Shafi'i, he said in a line of poetry, the great scholar Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, "Man istughdiba wa lam yaghdab, fahuwa himar." Whoever is aroused to anger doesn't get angry, they're like a donkey. Meaning, like, you can hit a donkey here, and it's going to be like, just shake it off, and you do whatever you want. You shouldn't abuse animals, of course. But, if you do that, a donkey is not going to mind. Obviously, you're going to get angry sometimes. People are going to say things, people will do things, and it bothers you. It gets underneath your skin. But it's okay to get angry, but it's not okay to manifest that anger in an unhealthy way. If you need to go run a mile and calm down. The Prophet ﷺ said, go make wudu because you get heated. Make wudu, it'll calm you down. If you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting down, lie down. If you need other coping mechanisms. Go punch a punching bag or something like that. But don't let your anger out on the people who you're going to regret when you do something. And don't let the words come out of your mouth, because when the words come out of your mouth that you're going to try and take back later, words are like bullets. Once they're fired, you can't take them back. And you just hope and pray that the other person will overlook it and forgive you. And that's why we need to be very careful before we speak. And on a side note, especially when it comes to social media, people seem to have an issue. People seem to think a lot less before commenting on social media. So something that they would think maybe 2 times or 3 times before speaking in public, they think 0, and they just comment quickly on social media, and now you have a problem, right? You say something and then you realize, oh, that was a really bad thing to say. I really didn't think about that. I just reacted in the moment. So we need to be careful. We need to be cautious, and we need to realize that there's a level of self-control that is required from us as Muslims when it comes to our anger, when it comes to things we say, when it comes to things we do, when it comes to all of these things. And the last manifestation of self-control I want to cover is wealth. Our desire for luxuries, our desire for comfort, our desire for money. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, لو أن ابن آدم أعطي واديا ملأ من ذهب أحب إليه ثانية. So that if the son of Adam, the child of Adam, meaning the human being, if they were given an entire valley full of gold, they would want a second valley, right? A valley is that space between 2 hills. I know when you live in like a modern city and there's buildings all around us, sometimes we're disconnected from nature. We're like, what's a valley again? Yeah, it's that slope between the 2 hills. Imagine that entire thing is full of gold. To put it in a modern context, is a giant 18-wheeler truck coming in, full of gold bars, pulling up, and it's all yours. You just won the halal lottery, right? Assuming there was one. Now you're a multimillionaire. And what is the Prophet ﷺ saying? What is he saying? He's saying that if that happened to you and you had all this wealth, you would want a second one. You'd ask for a second one. Say, when's the next truck coming? I would like one more. And then the Prophet ﷺ continued. He said, وَلَوْ أَعْطِيَ ثَانِيًا أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ ثَالِثًا. If he was given a second, then he'd want a third. And on and on and on. And then he said, وَلَا يَسُدُّ جَوْفَ ابْنِ آدَمْ إِلَّا التُّرَابِ. Nothing will fill up the inside of the human being except dirt. Right? And it's a sarcastic statement in a way. Basically what it's saying is that when you're not full, you're always craving more, you're not full. And he says the irony is that you're getting gold and you're not full. You still want more. And that's the nature of this dunya. That's the nature of this world. And he says the irony is the only thing that's going to fill you is dirt. So gold could not fill your appetite, but dirt is going to fill your appetite. What does he mean? Until you die and you're put into the ground and dirt is put on you. And now you're filled with dirt because you have no choice because you're dead. And he says that's the only thing that's going to fill you. When you die, your desire will be done. And that's all you're going to get. So it's a remembrance, it's a reminder about how human beings are. This is part of our nature, but we have to have some level of control. We always want to have more and more and more, and we're not satisfied with the things we have. And the more we try to focus on being content and being satisfied with what we have, the more happiness we'll have in our lives. The more blessings we will have in our lives. And this has become a big issue today, especially because a lot of people, they have such a high standard, or wanting to have such a high standard of living, even when it's not within their grasp. I'll give you just a simple example. There was I had purchased a phone for my wife. It's one of those smartphones. It was one of the Google phones. Top megapixel camera. It had all the gigabytes. It had the high resolution camera. All of that stuff. And she didn't like it, so I said, okay, let me sell it on Craigslist. Let me sell it online. Someone will buy it. So I'm going and I'm trying to sell it, and I'm just trying to get rid of it as soon as I can so I could switch it for a different phone. It had some, she just didn't like it. It didn't work. So while I'm trying to sell it, one person contacts me and he says, hey man, I think I put it for like, I don't know, $400 or something, $350 or something. He said, I'll give you $250 for it. I said, no, that's 250. Okay, so this is how bargaining works, right? If you list it for 350, they say 250. You come back and you're like, okay, 320. He comes back at 280, and I go, okay, how about like 320? And he goes, no, 250. I said, okay, this guy doesn't understand how to bargain. You're supposed to go this way, and then you meet halfway. I said, okay, how about like 310? He goes, no, 250. I said, this guy really doesn't understand how to bargain. I said, this is not gonna work. You're supposed to kind of meet me halfway here. He said, no, that's all the money I have. I only have $250. I said, okay, I'm thinking this guy's bluffing, right? So then I contact him and I say, okay, let's work out something, let's work out some kind of payment plan. I just want to get rid of this quickly. Maybe you can give me, I don't know, some USB sticks or flash drives, or give me something in addition to the money so I can have it. He said, no, seriously, like I am almost homeless, and I'm like he's actually squatting inside of a building that he found, like an abandoned building, and there's just kind of bricks around there. And he goes, this is all the money I have. My paycheck is coming in 3 weeks. I can give you more money in 3 weeks, but this is literally all the money I have, but I really want this phone. And I'm thinking to myself, subhanAllah, why would a guy who doesn't even have a place to stay and doesn't have any other money and the paycheck is not even there yet, why does he feel that there's somehow this need or this want, confusion between needs and wants today, right? This want to have the highest level of phone. I mean, I understand everyone, needs a phone nowadays. It's important. But the person could not differentiate between the priorities in life. And this happens to a lot of people. And it's, everyone is going through different challenges. But what we have to realize is that oftentimes when we say that we need something, we actually want it. But we don't want to express it as a want. We start to believe and think that we actually need that thing. Like it's not going to make us happy. We cannot function. We cannot live. We cannot attain contentment in our lives until we have that specific thing. And that's an illness of the heart. And we should be careful about that. And that's something that's very dangerous. And you find the same thing. People are taking out loans for things that are not necessities in their life. You tell someone, says, I need a car. I said, here's an example. You could buy this type of car. It's a few years old. No, I don't want a used car. I want a new car. Okay, can you afford a new car? No, but I want a new car. I don't want to drive a used car. But you can't. If you can't afford the new car, why would you feel that you somehow want a new car if you're not able to? So I'll just take out a loan, and I'll just try and pay it off. And it puts people in a dangerous situation, and this is becoming a major problem, particularly in American society, because a lot of other communities, they don't have the same type of mentality of purchasing and wanting and hoarding and all of these things. So what we need to realize is that there's these aspects of self-discipline that we all need to work on, and we all are guilty in some capacity of these things. So we need to be careful. We need to be cautious when it comes to the amount of food and the type of food that we're eating and how much desire we have for those things. We need to be cautious when it comes to protecting ourselves from anger and manifesting that anger. We need to be careful when it comes to desiring luxuries and wanting to have things and they're not really within our grasp, or even if they are within our grasp, we have trouble actually gaining contentment from them. We want more and more and more, and we're never satisfied. We're never content. We're never happy. We should be cautious about that. And one of the things is that when you control yourself, right, it's not always an easy thing. It's not always an easy thing to subdue your ego, subdue your nafs. But one of the ways in which we can do so, because Islam as a religion is teaching us to look beyond just the material pleasures and material things in life. It's telling us to look beyond just this dunya and this world, and that there's going to be another world, there's an akhirah that we want to be successful in. We want Jannah, inshallah. May Allah give us paradise. So one of the ways we can help ourselves is when we look at the wisdom behind the rulings and the guidance and the teachings that we have in the religion of Islam. And the more we focus on the wisdom behind it, the more we appreciate what we have, and we realize we become happy when we're avoiding something. So let me give you an example. If someone is saying, you know what, Islam has all these rules, okay, I'm going to follow them. I'm not going to drink, but it's so tempting. I want to go and I'm in a company meeting and everyone else is drinking around me. I'm just very tempted to go and drink. Or someone is, at at a party with their friends, and they order pizza, and they have pepperoni on their pizza, and they're non-Muslim friends, and they're just like, I'm tempted. When I was a kid, I used to go to children's birthday parties, friends from school, and they would order pepperoni pizza, and I'm the only kid who can't eat it. And I know some of you have gone through this, and you're just thinking, I wonder what that pepperoni tastes like. And you're kind of craving it. You're like, I wonder what it's like. That mentality of sitting there and saying, oh, I wish this was halal. I wish I could do that. I wish I could, date that girl or date that guy. I wish I could just have a little bit drink sometime. I wish, I could just smoke a little weed sometimes. All of those things, that desire for wanting something that you're not able to do, and that you're not going to do. If you're Muslim, you're avoiding it, but you're avoiding it with like a cringing avoidance. It's going to put a lot of stress on you. It's going to make your life challenging, because every single time you have to keep yourself away, it's another fight, it's another struggle. And of course we go through the struggle, but one way to help yourself through that struggle is to reflect upon the wisdom behind why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set these parameters. When it comes to alcohol, it's probably one of the easiest things to rationalize. When you see people getting in DUI accidents and killing people, when you see people getting drunk and going home and beating up their family, when you see people going in, nightclubs or going to frat parties and they're drunk and then they end up doing something like, I can't believe I did that. And you see people vomiting the next morning and all of that. And you look at that and you just say, Alhamdulillah. Praise be to Allah. Allah kept me away from this. I would have been tempted, but you know what? Now that I see the effects of that, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave us this guideline so I could keep myself in check. And if I was thinking about slipping, it just kind of kept me where I should have been in the first place. Right? So that's an example. The same thing can be applied for pork. The same thing can be applied for fornication and adultery. The same thing can be applied for so many things. And what ends up happening is the more we learn about Islam, the more depth of knowledge that we have, not just walking around halal and haram. This is haram. I don't do this because I'm a Muslim. The more depth we have understanding the wisdom and the reason, or at least the perceived reason, what we think, what we understand, why Allah has prohibited something, why Allah has given us certain guidance, why Allah wants us to pray on a regular basis, what benefit it gives us. What actually ends up happening is that becomes an enjoyable activity. Doing something becomes enjoyable. Staying away from it becomes enjoyable. You're seeing people drunk around you and you're staying away and you say, Alhamdulillah. What that ends up doing, it actually elicits a dopamine release in your brain. And what that does is it gives you a happy feeling. The dopamine is like what gets released when you're doing drugs. When you shoot heroin into your body, inshallah you don't, but if someone were to, then they get super high. They're like, oh, that feels great. That's what's going to happen when we understand Islam as being something beautiful in our life, and we're very happy that it exists. And not only does it make you happy, but it actually reduces the secretion of the stress hormones in your body as well. So now you feel more calm. Now you feel more relaxed. You don't get as stressed out. You're less likely to go into depression. And these are all beautiful things. So with self-control, understanding the wisdom behind the religion of Islam and the precepts and teachings we have in Islam, it can actually improve our lives for the better in this dunya as well as in the akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our mistakes and sins. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So just to recap what we said, for those of you who may have come late, we talked about the importance of self-control and discipline in life, and that it's actually shown by psychologists today that it's twice as important as intelligence in having a successful life. And alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we try to manifest that self-control when it comes to the amount of food that we eat and how much craving we have for food. We manifest that when it comes to controlling our anger and our temper and the words we say and the things we do when we're upset. And we manifest that when it comes to being able to control our desire for luxury and money and excessively wanting more and more and not being happy and content with the things that we have. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. We ask Allah, oh Allah, we thank you for giving us the ability to choose right from wrong. O Allah, we thank you for showing us the truth. O Allah, help those people who are going through difficulties and who are going through challenges. O Allah, help open the hearts and minds of people in this society, in this community, to understand the true message of Islam, the true teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. O Allah, show us the truth as truth and help us to follow it, and show us the false as false and keep us away from it. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa aqim as-salat.